everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have an incredible guest joining me at this time who I'm very excited to chat with. He's a very talented musician, vocalist. He is the founder of Extreme Vocal Institute and the vocalist for Renesans. Please welcome David Benites.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me today.
Of course. Obviously, you've been very busy, obviously, with the Extreme Vocal Institute and Renesans. So I'm excited to chat, all things music with you on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm an open book, too.
Well, very good. Well, I do want to kind of start with the Extreme Vocal Institute. Obviously, you've been very busy with that. So I'm kind of curious with the Extreme Vocal Institute, like what inspired you to found this institute?
Really what it was just me noticing that everyone around me was kind of having the same problems and the same concerns. Like when I was coming up through like the local scene in my area growing up, just as a kid trying to figure out how to scream on my own, I figured out a fair amount pretty quick and helped a lot of people around me with their voices. And people felt, I guess, kind of safe and comfortable talking to me about those things. And then when it comes to like, as I started to break myself through the actual industry and meeting other like touring artists and different people that have been in bands for a long time, I was noticing all of the anxieties and all the fears were really wrapped up in the same kind of things. So I said to myself, like, someone needs to step up and really make a difference here with all of this. And that's really what Extreme Vocal Institute was founded off of. And it went from just me running everything on my own to my wife and I, Riley, taking over together a year or so before COVID, creating our online program, EVI Now, during the brunt of lockdown, and then really blasting forward come the exit of COVID into like touring with different bands, helping them with their voices, going to the studio to help people as well. It's really gone a lot farther than I ever could have dreamed. So I'm really stoked to be here helping everybody.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And obviously you've become almost like a industry leader in some of the vocal training and lessons and stuff, because obviously I've seen your name and Extreme Vocal Institute pop up. For many, you've helped many musicians obviously kind of learn how to scream properly, so obviously they take care of their voice so they can have the longevity to continue doing it.
Absolutely. And that's really the name of the game too, the longevity element of it, while making sure that people still feel like they sound like themselves without any part of what they're doing feeling like watered down or anything like that. Because that was a big fear for a while, especially with like more established bands wanting or needing help with their voices. There had been a lot of fear around the idea of like, oh, I'm going to have to like totally water down what I'm doing. I'm going to have to sound like a lesser version of myself. I'm going to have to totally change what I'm doing. And that's not the case. I'm really stoked to have been able to help, if anything, kind of elevate and advance people to the next level of what they're doing and then make their next tours and their next record releases all the better for it.
Oh, for sure. I know, as I said, you've helped out like so many musicians with that. So like, I'm kind of curious with like Extreme Vocal Institute, like between founding it and continue running it to this day, what was like the biggest challenge you had to overcome with the institute?
Do you want that alphabetically or chronologically?
It's your interview. What do you feel?
With what I do with Extreme Vocal Institute and being a vocal coach and being responsible for so many people, but also being a private business owner, it does kind of come with the same kind of, I'll say, stresses as any other kind of self-made, like you're working for yourself business. The music industry is incredibly chaotic. The rules and the entire landscape of everything change seemingly every few minutes. So there have definitely been a lot of challenges. One of the challenges that we really faced in the beginning, I think, like especially come COVID, was we needed a way to be able to help people in a much more broad spectrum way, because there's only so many hours in the day. I'm only able to teach so many lessons in a row reliably. And then on top of that, like during COVID, nobody could see each other. No one could be around each other. So we had already been formulating the idea for our online program and just making an absolutely gargantuan course program of just everything I know and being able to update that as we go. But we didn't like have a team for anything. We didn't know, like I didn't know how to do nearly the kind of audio processing and engineering that I do now. So we taught ourselves how to be audio editors and videographers and like media people and just graphic designers. We had to teach ourselves, Riley and I, how to do literally everything in order to make that work. And in about that 6-month period, we built an entire studio ourselves, really out of nothing, scrounged what we could, and then put me in front of the camera basically every day, laying all of this out. And it was a major task. It was very grueling, but I'm very proud of what we have and what we've been continuing to grow, especially now that we are like here, like unveiling kind of like the new version of the program too. So to answer your question, that was like one of the most challenging times ever, especially because COVID itself was for everybody challenging, but I'm really proud of what we built in that time. Stresses were high, and a big thing I felt good about, especially at the time, and I still do now, is that extreme vocals and screaming and all the kind of things I teach here and what people want to learn is a major escape for a lot of people from like whatever it is they're dealing with in their day-to-day, or like more major like circumstantial issues like that was. And I know even for me, originally starting out, learning how to scream and wanting to go after this so bad was to escape lots of things within my own life. And it was a really powerful and intense and deeply emotional and yet constructive kind of outlet to be able to have for those feelings that I had at the time and that I still do have now. And for a lot of other people, it is just that too. So to be able to help people get there with what I do, to have that healthier and more constructive outlet for whatever they have going on inside and letting it out in such a powerful way, but without having to worry about there being any major consequences to doing that, feels very, very good.
Oh yeah, it's definitely rewarding, especially like for what you're doing and the reasons you're doing for the Extreme Vocal Institute. I think it's really awesome to kind of hear that kind of, you know, background of why you do it and how you help people. I think is incredible.
Thank you very much.
So I'm kind of curious. You've been talking about like the new like revamped like online program. So I'm kind of curious, like for anyone who's not familiar, what does it all entail?
So the way that this works and what we really set out to do is build something that had never really been done this way before. Because the way I teach, for anyone that is familiar with like any of my videos, or if you've seen me teach in person, like there's never just one way of doing something. And no matter who I'm working with, I always try to come at it from a different angle to figure out what's going to work best for them. And we really wanted to take that kind of attention to detail and that ability to shift perspectives on a situation and create an online version of that. Basically like having me virtually there with you in your pocket, available to you 24 hours a day. And that's what we really set out to do, between like kind of laying out, like understanding where screaming really came from and understanding the anatomy, the amount of different options that there are, and then how many more endless options there are in terms of different ways to even start screaming in the first place. And I'm really stoked to have helped thousands at this point, thousands upon thousands of people around the world learn how to scream and then continue to develop their voices. Because that was the other thing. I wanted to make sure this didn't feel like it was only for beginners either. I wanted people that have been doing this for a few years. I wanted professionals that do this for a living to be able to come in and have everyone get incredibly valuable information out of this, including an entire warm-up section that we have that kind of accounts for like every voice type, getting the body ready, getting the voice ready, but then also much more specifically curated screaming exercises that I also developed many of them during COVID, and I've developed many more since, and we've been adding more and more as we go with the program, which has made people really, really stoked because there's just always more to learn. And like I keep saying, I'm just really proud of how we've done that. And even now with this new version of the program we just unveiled, there's different quizzes before and after different things, like things that are really going to test your knowledge, ways to be able to keep track of your progress, ways to hold yourself accountable when you're practicing as well. So just lots of different interactive ways to really make sure you're getting the most out of your education with this thing too. So that's really how that works. That's the gist of it. There's definitely a lot to go through. So for anyone that does try our online program, I always recommend taking notes because it's a mouthful for sure. But I'm really stoked about the amount of people I've helped with this so far.
Oh no, definitely. It sounds, even more kind of immersive now, especially, very in depth, especially trying to just, as you said, tracking progress and trying just to elevate anyone who you're working with, I think is awesome. And so I'm curious, so for everyone watching, where's the best place to find Extreme Vocal Institute online?
So everything that I've been talking about is through our website, just extremevocalinstitute.com. We also post lots of different videos and like little tutorials on all of our socials on every single platform. Our YouTube channel has tons of different playlists of like more like different like vocal specific categories of like, oh, if you want to learn this type of thing, you can go here. This type of thing, you can go here. False quarter, fry scream, these directions. And the thing I'm stoked about with all of this, with all of the stuff on our socials, our YouTube, and then in our online program that we've been talking about, the big piece of feedback that I've gotten, or rather the thing people have celebrated, is that everything's very easy to understand. That's something I pride myself on a lot, because growing up trying to figure any of this out or trying to learn just voice things in general from any different places, there was just so much sometimes unnecessary vocabulary getting thrown around that it ends up making a lot of this process more confusing than it needs to be. And for many, many people, myself included back in the day, like kind of intimidated by the whole idea of trying to figure it out. So I'm really glad to have been able to create what we have here in a much more digestible way that makes people feel good about the act of learning it and gets them kind of where they want and need to be in the most effective way possible.
Oh, for sure. And I think that it's like, a really necessary part of learning is that people understand what you're teaching them. Because again, if you use very technical language or like, industry jargon so much that people, if they don't understand it, they can't continue their progress and they can't create a foundation effectively.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think it's really cool. I will leave a link for Extreme Vocal Institute in the description of this podcast for anyone who is interested. Please check it out. But now I do want to transition a little bit to Renesans now, because you guys have the awesome opportunity to perform at Milwaukee Metal Fest coming up on May 17. So I'm curious, like, how does it feel to be a part of this awesome festival?
To have something of like the magnitude like of Milwaukee Metal Fest is really nuts, especially considering this is the band's first festival. Everyone in Renesans and I are so stoked about it. The lineup is crazy. I think because of where we're built, we still get to mostly also go run off and see all the bands that we're most excited about that day too. It's going to be unbelievable. Milwaukee Metal Fest is going to be at the Rave in Milwaukee, and we play on the Saturday, May 17th. It's going to be nuts.
Oh, definitely. I've been seeing the advertisement for it. And again, I believe they've been doing this for a few years now, and it just seems like it's just been growing and growing, including so many amazing bands.
Yeah, I think the day that we play is being headlined by Black Label Society, and I think the following day is Arch Enemy headlining. So it's like the magnitude of this thing is nuts, and to be a part of that is awesome. And we're playing like right like in the late afternoon, like right before like the sun goes down. So I'm really, really excited to like get people very, very riled up with what we're doing, because we've got some surprises for our set planned as well.
Very nice. Very well. Can you give any hints about what the set will be for Milwaukee Metal Fest, if you can?
The only thing I can say, and because we have done it a little bit before, so anyone that's seen us on tour this year so far maybe knows this already, but we have been playing an unreleased song.
Ooh. Well, if anyone is interested, definitely got to see Renesans live to find out what that unreleased song is.
It is very, very heavy. It's definitely been a highlight of the set for sure.
Awesome. That sounds incredible. So I'm curious, so with a live show like that, so for you, like, how do you prepare for a live show? Like vocally, mentally, physically, all of that?
Most of the way I would prep for a show, it's a little different from what I usually recommend to others, because I try to keep myself more or less in shape for this vocally, more or less all the time, because so much of my time is teaching lessons or making content to try to help people learn, or even stuff to promo Renesans and all the things we're doing. I'm having to use my voice very often. I have to keep very physically active to keep up with all of that and have the energy to be able to do these things. So mostly what I do is just start to get a little more mindful and I guess a little more purposeful with keeping on top of like my physical well-being, keeping on top of like trying to eat a little better, exercise a little more rigorously, being a little more structured with it as we get closer. Like, for example, we have Milwaukee Metal Fest in a few weeks, and then we immediately join a Skylit Drive as a direct support for tour right after that. So we have a bit of a longer set on that one too. So I have to be ready to go from one to the other and keep going and not lose steam. So keeping on top of exercise, eating as clean as I can, and then starting to vocalize a little more like towards like the direction of actually like practicing the songs a bit here and there. And we run a handful of rehearsals with the band too, typically before we jump into different things. So it's not all of us like live all in the same place. It's not like we're like practicing once a week or anything like that. So I just start to kind of level up. So I feel like I'm at that peak point by the time there's something major like this festival that we're playing.
Performing on stage, you have to be able to be, in good shape where you can, breathe and, sing and scream and all of that. It's all tied to your physical well-being.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and this is something I work on a lot with my touring artists so much, especially like if I'm at a show with people for the day, or if people are taking me out on the road with them to kind of do like vocal boot camp with them every day. So much of what ends up getting focused on is stuff around what the vocalizing is, taking care of the body, being kinder to yourself, giving yourself the time you need to actually properly prepare for a show. And that doesn't mean just like warming up until you're blue in the face. It's even just taking a moment to let yourself just like relax and calm down for a moment. Because so much of tour is either the hurry up and wait game and just like kind of everyone sitting around on their phones, or it's just chaos, go, everything's happening all at once. So it's definitely tough on the nervous system, to say the least. So it's as long as you're like balancing these things, and like you were saying, like I'm saying, just giving yourself that freedom to take care of yourself makes a huge difference on stage.
Oh, for sure. And definitely like once you start getting into, being physically healthier, it makes everything easier. You can move easier, you can breathe, it's so much that is tied to just being in shape.
Definitely, for sure. That being said, like it's also like not necessarily like living very restricted, because there's also a lot of people I've known in the past, or a lot of people that have helped or even myself at times where like people feel like, oh, like before and after set, like the entire night after set, they have to totally like seclude themselves, like don't talk to anybody, don't be near anyone, don't hang out, don't go out. And it can make the job of doing this kind of not all it could be. It makes it almost a bit negative because of how strict things need to feel like sometimes people feel like for themselves. And something that I really implement and urge people towards is to still let themselves live their lives even when they're on tour or even when you're in the studio, and not feel like, oh, I need to be like this perfect machine or everything's gonna go wrong. Like whether that's like everyone just like going out for food before set and like enjoying each other's company, or just like hanging out like in front of house after a set, or like if people are like going to a bar or just going out to see friends after the show later on, as long as you're like in bed, not at like 3 or 4 in the morning, like you can let yourself live. That's the really important thing, because I'm a big advocator for making sure like the joy factor in the day is always there, and just letting yourself live the way you want to live is a big part of that.
Oh no, for sure, and that's a very good point, because you can't you can't be partying until like 5 a.m., but you also can't like kill the joy of like doing the performing or touring, because it should be fun and there should be joy in it. And if you are too restrictive on either end, then it just kind of becomes more like more like a job or more like a schedule than like actually getting to live a life. So I agree. That's a very good point.
Yeah, and it's really easy to unintentionally feel trapped in those kind of situations too, especially when you see like the rest of your team or the rest of your band like going off and doing their thing, and you feel like you just need to be like secluded and alone. It's very restrictive, and I feel like a big part of what makes doing something like this and being a professional vocalist such a cool and rewarding job is the different kind of life experiences that you gain from this that don't even necessarily have anything to do with what's happening on stage. It's just all the circumstantial stuff around it that's so incredible, as long as you leave yourself open to taking it in and participating in it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I definitely agree with that. Now, I do got a few things I did want to cover before we head out. So, like, I'm curious, we're talking a lot about, like, life and, like, balance and, choices and all of that. So I'm kind of curious for you as a musician and a vocal coach, like, how do you balance, like, your life, your time for, the Institute and the band as well?
And my favorite answer to that question is it's a work in progress.
That's a good answer.
just like for anybody, like balance is always an ongoing task, and there's just kind of like learning vocals, there's never a point where you're done, and it's not about hitting that point when you're done. It's more so kind of letting yourself hit checkpoints that you're setting for yourself, feeling good about that, and then setting that next short-term goal, letting yourself work towards that, keeping long-term goals in mind, working towards those. And for me, when it comes to balancing what I do as a vocal coach and then what I'm doing with Renesans as a band, especially because right now we're independent and we've been doing so much of this ourselves and myself, it's about just trying to make sure we're working on as equally as possible, like enough of for one thing and giving one thing equal care in the day as much as the other. And there are some days that are a bit chaotic. I may have like a bunch of lessons or someone coming through on a tour where I need to help and work with a lot of people all at once. Or there might be some days where I get a lot of phone calls about the band. We're working on things for a tour, or maybe we're in the studio writing for a record. Sometimes it's a bit tough to focus as much on things on the vocal coaching side of things if I have to be fully locked in for so many hours to try to be creative and have good ideas and great ideas and turn those into songs that people are going to enjoy. So it's kind of a give and take thing. It's definitely challenging at times, and it does come with its own stresses. Just like I was saying before with anything freelance, when you work for yourself, there's such a chaotic element to it, but I wouldn't have it any other way because I truly love everything I'm doing all the time. And I know how uncommon that is to be heard, and not everybody feels that way. So I definitely don't take it for granted. It makes me want to always work that much harder to always put my best foot forward, work on that balancing act, and just feel like I'm always giving everything equal care. And that's why I love being able to be an artist and be in a band and then also be the vocal coach, helping everybody at the same time.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And obviously, I've seen your content, obviously, with interacting and talking with you in this interview. Like, I can tell you're very passionate about the band and about vocal coaching. As you said, sometimes, it's not always the equal time that, it can get chaotic, but you always care about what you do. And I think that is such an important part of anything anyone does, is you have to care and you have to take pride in what you do, and you have to have fun with what you do. Life is too short to not have fun.
Exactly. Yes. And the whole reason we're doing any of this in the first place, not even the people on stage, but people off stage, people like yourself talking to people in bands and people that work in music, like, we only do this because we love it. Like, this is like truly like a work of passion, like all of this. And that's one of the really cool things, especially like when you're at a show, or like, let's say like I'm performing and Renesans is playing a show. Like, I know that everybody in the crowd, everybody side stage, and everybody on that stage with me is there because we're all equally stoked and equally as passionate about like what this music is and what this whole art form is.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So now, like, we've been talking about Renesans and Extreme Vocal Institute. Like, it's like two separate things, but like they're obviously very much connected with your life. So I'm kind of curious, like, how is it like making the connection between both? How have you used like Renesans as like a business card per se for Extreme Vocal Institute?
And it's funny you say it that way, because you kind of nailed it on the head in terms of what Renesans really started as and kind of what it still is too. Because running our own business like this and having to start a band like in this day and age independently is tough, especially like on the time balance effort, on the financial balance effort, on everything across the spectrum. So we needed to make sure that everything can be very cohesive and like very symbiotic. So the band very much, Renesans absolutely does double as a business card for what I do with Extreme Vocal Institute. Because even though I've worked with lots of people, that's all cool and all, but one of the big questions someone could obviously have when they're looking at someone like me or anybody is, wow, okay, I like that guy's voice and I enjoy what they're saying, but are they someone that also does this? Like, how do I know I'm in good hands if this isn't someone that's also just out there doing it, if they're not in their own band, if they're not also touring and putting out songs? And Renesans is a big answer to that. I am out here. I am doing the same thing as the rest of us are out here. I'm touring, we're putting out songs, and we're working as hard as we can to be the biggest band that we can be. Especially because I can't do anything in my life, like, not all the way. The more you know. But yeah, the band really does operate as a business card for Extreme Vocal Institute as well. And it works really well in terms of letting people know you can trust me with what I'm saying and with your voice, because I am using all of this information every day of my life to be able to do what I'm doing. And I feel like what I'm doing and what my band are doing, we do it well. And people, especially like within this first year of being a touring band, people really like it. And I'm really excited about that. And I'm stoked that there are so many people out there that are as excited about this as I am. And that we are able to have such a unique standing point here, being people in the vocal coaching community, kind of like as like a pillar of what we're doing in like rock and metal and extreme music. And then also being an artist myself, having that actually work together this well is really awesome.
I know it is. I'm glad, obviously they, mesh very well, but also it shows that like you're in the trenches as well with anyone you're helping, teach, that you are going through, as you said, the same kind of experiences, and you're using the same kind of, technique and everything to do, to perform as well. I think it's just really cool. And it shows to people that I am here. I am, I'm doing exactly what I teach I'm doing, and I'm here doing the same thing everyone else is.
If you're going to say that you're an expert in something, I think it's really important that you live by your words. It's really important to like live by those words and be true to them too, and lead by example. Like as any kind of person in like a leadership position like this, like I was saying earlier, like I'm putting my best foot forward. I'm doing the best I can every day. I know what those good days look like and what the bad days look like from like the endless amount of both that constantly happen here while I'm doing my thing, either for coaching or for the band. So being able to take that experience and help people with it and then show the proof of concept is really, really awesome. And I feel like helps people get to where they want to be a lot faster and very effectively because of that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But now, as we're closing out this interview, I got a fun question before we head out. So I'm curious for you, what is your favorite Renesans song to perform live?
Oh, you're going to make me pick one of my children over the other.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I have been very excited recently because we've been celebrating the 1-year anniversary of our debut release. We put out our first EP, Born from the End, about a year ago now, and all of those songs are so special to me and everything that went into them was so special to me. But there are new things we've been working on, and we have, like I've been mentioning, playing this very heavy new song live. I'll give you this. It's called Split Brow. I think there are some clips circulating online if you look for them. That song and like playing that has been so fun. Especially because like this is the first round of songs that's been written since like everybody like me, Dave on guitar, Ron on bass, Luke on drums. Like now that like the actual full band has existed for this whole year, this is the first time we're writing as a band too. And the results have been very exciting. So playing that new song live has been a big personal favorite so far.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, now, as we're closing this out, so I'm curious, so for yourself, Extreme Vocal Institute, and Renesans, what's the rest of 2025 looking like for you?
It's busy right now, right? Because in a few weeks we leave for Milwaukee Metal Fest. Then, like I said, we have this tour with the Skylit Drive that I'm very excited about. And then only a few weeks after that, like we have different studio work, we have lots of other things going on. And then the Road to Warp tour in Scranton, Pennsylvania, once again returning with our friends in Escape the Fate. And we've also got It Dies today and Scary Kids Scaring Kids that day. It's going to be so much fun. There's other things we're working on for the second half of the year. And then there's, like I mentioned, we are writing and we are going to be working on starting to bring all of that together as the year comes to a close too. So Renesans is it's making sure to keep me as busy as I've probably ever felt.
It's better to be busy than not, and I hope everything goes smoothly for you with Extreme Vocal Institute and Renesans as well. Of course, as I said, I will leave some links in the description for Extreme Vocal Institute and Renesans in the description of this podcast. Please check both of them out. But David, thank you so much for your time. I had a fantastic time interviewing you.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew, for having me. Thank you for having me on the show. This has been awesome. I really like what you're doing. And you asked some really good questions today, too, and kind of got me thinking. And I enjoy that you're kind of seeing things on the same plane as me here in terms of just the balance of everything and just letting yourself enjoy things.
Well, of course. And I really appreciate it. I try very hard to ask some very thought-provoking and open-ended questions. So, it's not just the same run-of-the-mill questions that many interviewers say.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And again, thank you for having me. This has been great.
Of course. For David of Extreme Vocal Institute and Renesans, I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.
And keep screaming responsibly.